Before it was known as Offutt Air Force Base, it was called Fort Crook. The name comes from General George Crook, who was making an impact at Fort Omaha, the same place where Metropolitan Community College stands today. 3 News Now anchor Zach Williamson went to the campus to dig up some of its military history for mission service.
This is Mission Service, sponsored by Barry Law.
This was the first brick building built here on the fort.
This being the General Crook House Museum, originally built in 1879.
None of it is original to the house, but it's all, painstakingly researched.
It housed the general, along with some other big names moving through.
And that specifically Grant and Rutherford B. Hayes would have stayed in.
General George Crook was a Civil War veteran who fought for the Union in about 20 battles and was one of the top Army leaders during the Indian Wars.
But Standing Bear said of General Crook, I could always trust his word, and he was a good and honest man.
Crook's presence was necessary in the fort's founding.
In the 1860s, Fort Omaha came about as a way to protect the settlers and also engage in the complex relationships with indigenous people. Several tribes were in the area.
But Crook and his home,
here's another, I think this is circa 1890s as well.
are just part of the military history at Fort Omaha.
Fort Omaha in 1893. And so you can see all the soldiers on the parade ground. The way that they've preserved the parade ground here on Fort Omaha on campus is amazing because you can walk across it.
The history I found most interesting, the Fort Omaha Balloon School.
This is the hangar that was built here at Fort Omaha. So there's a balloon in the hangar you can see, and then there's a person right there for scale, so you can kind of understand how big.
16,000 trained at the Fort Omaha Balloon School during World War I. The balloons were used during World War I before aircrafts to observe and report on the enemy.
And there were other balloon schools too. We weren't the only one, but we were a very significant one.
Being in the center of the country by a major river and being in a railroad center, it made sense for this to be a place of military research and development.
And I think that we were uniquely placed to be one of the hubs of it because we had possession of the German-made balloon, the one German-made balloon that we had here at the fort.
The balloon era didn't last long.
It's about a 10 to 15 year period where we were experimenting, figuring stuff out, and then they were just obsolete.
But it did help open the door for Offutt Air Force Base, which put itself on the map during World War II.
One of the concerns when we had the balloon school here was that it wasn't big enough and that we couldn't train as many men at once. And so I'm sure that was part of the reason that things shifted.
It's the history of both locations that has shaped the Omaha area.
Civilians have been notoriously patriotic in this area, and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the Fort Omaha and then Offutt, of course.
Our thanks to Zach Williamson. The Crook House Museum is open 7 days a week. Next door is the Douglas County Historical Society Archive Center with records that tell all of Omaha's history, also available to the public. You can learn more about both online at douglascohistory.org. And if there's a person or topic you think we should cover for Mission Service, tell us. Email mission.service@3newsnow.com.